Hello, third grade. We are going to talk about illustrations today and why they are so important when trying to understand what we are reading. So the strategy we have been working on is called Wake Up Your Brain. And we are learning that as we read, we need to engage our mind by asking questions. And in fiction, like in our Magic Tree House book, we might ask things like, what's going to happen next? Or why did the character do that? And in non-fiction books like Everything Dinosaurs, we might ask questions about the topic. I wonder why the dinosaurs went extinct. Or I wonder how some dinosaurs took care of their young. So we are going to practice that strategy today, but we are not just going to focus on the words. We're still going to focus on our words as we read and ask questions about what is happening in our story here, or even in our nonfiction text, because we're going to look at a little bit in this today as well. But we're going to look closely at the illustrations. And we are going to use illustrations to ask questions. So we're using the illustrations to keep us engaged by asking questions about those illustrations. Like, why did the author include this in the book? Or what can this illustration tell me about what might happen next? So to go more into that, for an example, when I open up the Magic Tree House book here, I open this book up and I notice the title cover, the title page here. There is a T-Rex on the inside cover. That's a very important place to put a picture, isn't it? It is the title page. It's a very important place to put a picture. I also noticed that the T-Rex looks quite mean. Look, he's fairly angry. You have your book at home, so if you have your book, I want you to pull out your book and notice the title page here and notice how angry the T-Rex looks. I wonder why. I wonder why he looks so angry. Why did the author want an illustration of a T-Rex, an angry T-Rex? I wonder if that means that the T-Rex might be the villain or the enemy of the story. And it also makes me wonder if there's going to be a problem with the T-Rex later in this book. And if T-Rexes are meat-eating dinosaurs. So that's just an example of how you should be thinking about our illustrations when we see them in our chapter books. Some chapter books include illustrations, some do not. But the ones that do, we need to take advantage of those illustrations because they help us stay engaged, and they tell us a little bit more about the story. They help us understand the story a lot better. And it helps us, when we understand our story, we're able to get lost into what is happening, and we can visualize in our minds what is happening as if we were there, or as if we were one of the characters like Jack and Annie. So illustrations set the moods of a lot of the books we read. It really does set the mood. Like in this illustration, I always refer back to this illustration because it's so important. It really tells you a lot about our characters here. How Annie is wide-eyed and happy and free and running and adventurous. You can see that here just by looking at the illustration. And you can see that Jack here, he's like a worried older brother. Very concerned face. This sets the mood of our story. And this lets us know a little bit more about our characters. And we know in chapter 1, because we analyzed chapter 1 a lot, we learned a lot about Jack and Annie. And that's probably why the author wanted to include a picture of them in there. So as we read chapter 6 today, and I want you to go ahead and make sure you pull out your book because you are following along. You're not just listening. you are following along as we read. So as I read this book, we are going to analyze the pictures and ask questions in chapter 6. And we're also going to do a comparison here. Here I have a nonfiction text, Everything Dinosaurs, with full of illustrations. And we call the illustrations in nonfiction fact books like this one, text features. And we're going to learn a little bit about these text features, but also we're going to look closely at the illustrations in this book and compare it to illustrations in our novel. So, before we get started on chapter 6, let's look back at chapter 5, Gold in the Grass. We know that gold in the grass makes sense for this chapter title because Jack found a golden medallion in the grass. And we had a big question in class, what is a medallion? And it's a piece of jewelry. It's like a metal piece of jewelry, maybe that could hang on a necklace. And it was glittering in the grass. And he reached down and he picked it up. Why did the author include this illustration? Not only did the author want to show you how much the medallion must have glittered in order for Jack to find it in that tall grass, but also it shows you the setting. It sets the mood. Look at the volcanoes in the background. This is a busy place. The Cretaceous period is a busy place, different than our world here. We don't have active volcanoes in our world. And look, well, in our local environment, we do not. But look, and it shows the Triceratops here. Gives you a good idea of how large this prehistoric animal was, this prehistoric dinosaur was, compared to Annie and Jack. And how it didn't bother them. It's a very great illustration to set the mood. Let's look at the illustrations in chapter 6. So as we read chapter 6, let's remember we are going to continue to ask and answer questions and decide whether or not something is fact or fiction. And we are going to think about the role of our illustrations. Illustrations are the images in our text. So illustrations are the images in our text, the pictures in our text. When we talk about nonfiction books, when we go into talking about our nonfiction book here, which we will in the next video, we're going to talk about text features. And those are also considered illustrations in a nonfiction book. And we'll talk more about that in that next video. But in this video, we're going to focus on chapter 6 of our fiction book, Magic Treehouse, Dinosaurs Before Dark, number 1. Jack said that somebody had to be there before them, and that's where we left off. He said engraved, that means it was kind of imprinted into the medallion. There was a fancy M. I wonder what that means. See? Ask yourself questions. Do you wonder what that means? Because if you did, then you are using that strategy and you are engaged. That means you are a skilled reader. Remember, in 3rd grade, we're learning how to be skilled readers. Skilled readers understand what they're reading and stay engaged. Chapter 6, Dinosaur Valley. Wonder why they titled this one Dinosaur Valley. Let's find out. Annie, look at this, Jack called. Look what I found. Annie had gone up to the hilltop. She was picking a flower from the magnolia tree. Annie, look, a medallion, shouted Jack. But Annie wasn't paying attention to Jack. She was staring at something on the other side of the hill. Oh, wow, she said, clutching her magnolia flower. She was clutching it because she must have been excited. You know when you squeeze something really hard when you're excited? She took off down the hill. Annie, come back, Jack shouted. But Annie had disappeared. "Oh, brother," Jack muttered. He stuffed the golden medallion in his jeans pocket. Then Jack heard Annie shriek. It's like a scream. "Annie," he said. Jack heard another sound as well, a deep bellowing sound like a tuba. "Jack, come here quick," Annie called. Jack raced up the hill. When he got to the top, he gasped. The valley below was filled with nests. Nest is plural. That means there's multiple nests. Look at this illustration. The author really wanted you to see that there were multiple nests here. There's one here and one here. And this illustration makes me ask this question. What is this dinosaur? I wonder what species of dinosaur this is. Or if it's one of those prehistoric reptiles like a pteranodon. And what is happening here? This dinosaur going to attack Annie? Oh, I want to read more to find out. So Jack raced up the hill. When he got to the top, he gasped. The valley below was filled with nests. Big nests made out of mud. The nests were filled with tiny dinosaurs. Annie was crouching next to one of the nests. Towering over her was a gigantic, a huge duck-billed dinosaur. Duck-billed, they're talking about its mouth and how its mouth is formed or looks. It looks kind of like a duck-bill. "Don't panic, don't move," said Jack. He stepped slowly down the hill towards Annie. The huge dinosaur was waving her arms and making her tuba sound. I wonder how they know that is a female dinosaur. And they didn't answer our question yet. What kind of dinosaur is that? But they did say it was a dinosaur. Jack stopped. He didn't get too close. He knelt on the ground. "Okay, move towards me slowly," he said. Annie started to stand up. "Don't stand, crawl," said Jack. Clutching her flower, she really doesn't want to lose that flower, Annie crawled towards Jack. Still bellowing, that means making a loud sound, the duck-billed dinosaur followed her. Annie froze. That means she was kind of scared. "Keep going," Jack said. Annie started crawling again. Jack inched farther down the hill until he was able just an arm's distance away from Annie. He reached out and grabbed her hand. He pulled Annie towards him. Wow. Jack is a really, really good older brother. He just saved his sister. "Stay down," Jack said. And it's a good thing that Annie is finally listening to her brother. She doesn't always do that, but she did listen to him when she needed to the most. "Stay down," said Jack. Jack said. He crouched next to her. "Bow your head, pretend to chew." "Chew?" said Annie. "Yes," said Jack. "I read that that's what you do if a mean dog comes to you." He is referring back to a book that he must have read about dogs that said, "Pretend to chew if a mean dog comes to you." "She's no dog, Jack," said Annie. "Just chew," said Jack. Jack and Annie both bowed their heads and pretended to chew. Soon the dinosaur grew quiet. Jack looked up. "I don't think she's mad anymore," he said. Seems like it actually worked. "You saved me," said Annie. "Thanks." Oh, she's very grateful. It's a good character trait to have. "You have to use your brain, Annie," said Jack. "You can't just go running to a nest of babies. There's always a mother nearby." Annie stood up. "Annie, don't," said Jack. Too late. She's so hard-headed. Annie held out her magnolia flower to the dinosaur. "I'm sorry I made you worry about your babies," she said. The dinosaur moved closer to Annie. She grabbed the flower from her hand. She reached for another. "No more," said Annie. The dinosaur let out a sad tuba sound. "But there are more flowers up there," Annie said. She pointed to the top of the hill. "I'll get you some." Annie hurried up the hill. The dinosaur waddled after her. Oh, she's feeding the dinosaur, and she is following her. Jack quickly looked at the dinosaur's babies. Oh, I bet he decided to quickly look at the dinosaur babies because the mom was distracted by Annie. Some were crawling out of their nest. Where are the other mothers? That's a good question. The illustration we looked at showed multiple nests. And in the text, it said that the valley below was filled with nests. That means more than one. That one dinosaur couldn't have laid all those eggs, right? It's a good question, Jack. Jack took out his book. He flipped through the pages. He found a picture of some duck-billed dinosaurs. He read the caption. Wow, Jack really knows how to read nonfiction text. I bet he looked at the table of contents for duck-billed dinosaurs, so he knew exactly what page it was on. Or the illustrations. It says he found a picture of some duck-billed dinosaurs. He used the illustration inside of his nonfiction text to find the information that he needed. He used the illustrations. You could do the same too when looking through nonfiction. The Anatosaurus lived in colonies. While a few mothers babysat the nest, others looked for food. Here's a question, because we're thinking about we've been talking about fact, the difference between fact and fiction, and we said some fiction stories include facts. I wonder if this is a real fact. How could we find out? If you said, maybe look through our Everything Dinosaurs book, I think that's a good idea. Use a nonfiction text to find out. We could research that on the internet. So there were probably more mothers close by looking for food, he thought. Hey, Jack, Annie called. Jack looked up. Annie was at the top of the hill feeding magnolia flowers to the giant Anatosaurus. Guess what? Annie said. She's nice too. I wonder why she used two in that way. Oh, I remember. She said that the Triceratops was nice and the Pteranodon. Actually, I don't think they came across an angry dinosaur yet. Suddenly, the Anatosaurus made her terrible, this must have been an awful sound, tuba sound. It's like a blowhorn maybe kind of sound. Tuba is like a horned instrument. Annie crouched down and started to chew. She's pretending to chew again because she's scared. She must be a little scared. The dinosaur charged down the hill. She seemed afraid of something. Jack put the book on top of his pack. He hurried to Annie. I wonder why she ran away, said Annie. I'm asking the same question. I'm a little nervous. We were starting to be friends. Jack looked around. What he saw in the distance almost made him faint. That means pass out. He almost fainted. A huge monster was coming across the plain. And look at this illustration. It's really setting the mood. Look at the fear in this Anatosaurus's face. Something terrible, I think, is about to happen. Do you feel it? Oh, I love when books make me feel this way. It's so thrilling. Oh, I am full of suspense. I am wondering what is going to happen next. What is this enormous monster they are referring to? And where is it? We don't see it. We don't see it in the illustration. I wonder why the author decided not to show it in this illustration. Maybe they wanted you to wonder and read more. And look, I think they included this illustration too to show the fear and how intense Jack, look, he has his fist clutched. Oh, seems a little nervous. The monster was walking on two strong legs. It was swinging a long, thick tail and dangling two tiny arms. Have you guessed what it is yet? I think I know. Do you? It had a huge head, and its jaws were wide open. Even from far away, Jack could see its long gleaming teeth. Tyrannosaurus Rex, whispered Jack. And we're going to leave that there. Oh, that is so amazing. Remember, I was asking about the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the beginning. And I wondered if he was going to be in our story and if he was going to be a villain. And this was his introduction. Oh, I'm excited to read what would happen next. Our next chapter is called Ready, Set, Go. And I cannot wait to read that now. I wonder what is going to happen next. We use the illustrations a lot to understand our chapter as we read. And I want you to go back and reread chapter 6 by yourself. And if you have any questions that we didn't mention in this video, or I didn't mention in this video, I want you to share that with me. You can share that with me in a message if you like. That would be great. All right, make sure you are reading chapter 6 by yourself, and you have an assignment where you have to answer chapter 6 comprehension questions. Use your text to answer those questions. Have fun reading.